Good morning, Unitics from Unity of London. We welcome everybody that's here today. We're grateful that you've come to join us to make today's service special because you are here. And we look forward to all those that watch our service later on online. We know they will be blessed by it just as much as we will be being here as live as we possibly can. At Unity of London, we hold a vision that is similar to all unities worldwide, and that is a world powerfully transformed through the growing movement of shared spiritual awakening. So number one is that unity is not a religion or a thing. It's not a church. It's a movement, and a movement of people sharing their spiritual awakening. As one light, a candle lights brighter and lights another, the whole world becomes transformed. So we enjoy sharing our spiritual awakening each Sunday and throughout the week. And our way that we envision having that to unfold is that our mission is to transform lives. And how do we transform lives, or how do we transform our lives? Well, we inspire people to make a positive difference in the world. But one of the things that we're learning as we're going through a spiritual engagement mastermind is that it's about spiritual contribution, contributing to the world spiritually, and that transforms the entire world, our life and other lives. So it's a doable thing, and many of us are quite excited about it, and we're certainly excited about what's coming out of the engagement mastermind. Our announcements for today: that we have our prayer chaplains. In prayer room 1, you'll find Wilda, and in prayer room 2, you'll find Pauline. And you can put a note in the chat, or you can let us know at the end of the service if you'd like to go in for individual one-on-one prayer. And we're so grateful that we have prayer chaplains at Unity of London that can do that with us each month. And so now we're going to go into prayer. So I invite you to become comfortable in your chair. Close your eyes if you're comfortable, and take your awareness from your head and settle into your heart space. And feel yourself connected to all that is. In May, we hold in prayer Unity White Rock and Unity New Westminster. We also hold all spiritual gatherings that are happening today, for we know that there are many paths to the one and only God. We also hold in prayer Don Brigalow, Sylvia Square and her mom and dad, Lois and her daughter. And we also hold the woman that was supposed to be our guest speaker today, Dr. Mary Little. She was supposed to be our speaker, but she has broken her leg. So we see Dr. Little healing and her leg mending, and we look forward to having her in the future when she is mended and well. And we will enjoy our speaker today and the presentation. We also hold in our prayers and in our heart and in our imagination the vision of the world, our community, getting back to some sort of normalcy. We see each other in our building, around our building. I see our first time coming together having a barbecue. And we know that the building will be just bubbling with joy and love. And as we hold that vision, we know that it will be realized. It's just a matter of divine order and divine time. And so we know that people are healing, hearts are mending, and that spirit is always unfolding the best for all of us. We need only just trust the process and hold the right vision, the good that we feel in our heart that we know that is ours. And so we enjoy a great service today. And we will be transformed in some small way, maybe some large way, but we will make a difference for us and thus the world. And so it is, and so we let it be, and we look forward to, again, a great service. Amen. And now our platform assistant, Lois, will read from today's daily word.
Today's daily word is strength. Divine strength invigorates my body and quickens my mind. If I feel my energy waning during a time of vigorous physical or mental activity, if my get up and go has got up and gone, I remember these inspiring words from The Prayer of Faith by Hannah Moore God is my strength, unfailing, quick, The strength of God is my strength and is more than sufficient to meet my every need, more than toughness or forcefulness. Spiritual strength is quiet fortitude, a rootedness in the inexhaustible wellspring of the divine. Today, I release all thought of weakness or impossibility. I feel the power of divine strength flowing through me, invigorating my body and bringing renewed clarity to my thoughts. The strength of God is my strength. This is from 1 Corinthians verse 25. For God's foolishness is wiser than human wisdom, and God's weakness is stronger than human strength. And now we would like to present a guest presentation by Eric Butterworth. Eric Butterworth authored 16 best-selling books on metaphysical spirituality. He was a gifted theologian, philosopher, and lecturer. Eric Butterworth was a highly respected New Age pioneer and innovator of new thought. He reminded readers and listeners of the existence of God in, around, above, and through each one of us. His message today centers around you always have a choice. And here he is.
It is said that hope springs eternal in the human breast. But I'm sure that many of us have observed in our own experience or in the lives of others that at times this hope is reduced to a faint glimmer. Many persons cry out with Shakespeare's Juliet, "Come weep with me, past hope, past cure, past help." A person may be trapped in a situation and a relationship that is destructive and depleting, and he may well move through resignation and resistance and come up with the statement, well, what are you going to do? Or perhaps, I have no choice. You know, I've been teaching this new insight in truth for over 30 years. And recently, I was indulging in a little reflection, and I asked myself, if I had an opportunity to convey one little bit of philosophy to the masses, what would it be? Just one simple idea. In other words, reducing the whole metaphysical system into the least common denominator. What is the most important insight needed to open the door in the mind of a person to the vast discovery of truth? And I've concluded that it is simply this: you always have a choice. There is no such thing as a choiceless life. I want us to think about that this morning. You may be living in trying times. You may be faced with a shaky economy that is out of your hands, but which has a detrimental effect upon your personal security. You may be an innocent bystander in a world of war, a society replete with inequities and injustices, and a community stricken with blight and depravity. But all this is in the world out there. Perhaps there's little you can do to change it, to change conditions, or even to remove yourself from their influence. But you do have a choice. For life is consciousness. You live in a world of your thinking, a world of your mind. Things may happen around you, things may happen to you, but the only things that really count are the things that happen in you, in your consciousness, in your mind. Your world, as far as you're concerned, is formed and shaped totally and completely by your attitudes and your feelings, by your consciousness. As the poet once said, you can make every day of your life a dance, a dirge, or a life march as thou wilt. The choice is yours. It's true the winds of life and of circumstance may blow, and the winds may not always blow in the way you want them to. They may not always lead you in the way you want to go. And you can't regulate the winds. And certainly there's little to be gained in complaining about them. But you have a choice. Ella Wheeler Wilcox sat by the East River here in New York City a number of years ago, meditating on the fact that people coming from the same environment and from the same parentage turn out so differently. And she was inspired by watching the sailboats coming and going to their docking and out to sea. And she wrote the immortal lines, "One ship drives east and the other drives west by the self-same winds that blow. 'Tis the set of the sails and not the gales that determines the way they go." For instance, you could consider a person who's become a classic reference in American culture, such as Abraham Lincoln. The wind of circumstance could easily have blown this person into a harbor of stalwart mediocrity, a small circle of farm and home and church and community life, because it seemed that everything went against him. In the eyes of the world, he could easily have been called a loser because everything he tried to do failed. But he tacked into the teeth of the gale of circumstances, and every tack bringing an opportunity to educate and expand his understanding until his mind ultimately became a fitting vehicle to take the responsibility of sailing our ship of state. You may say, "Oh, you're talking about attitudes." Well, of course, because it is attitudes that make our life. And you may object, "Well, a person must be realistic. This situation has happened. It was not of my doing. It's beyond my control. Now I might just as well accept it. It's the way things are." On the contrary, it is not the way things are, but it's the way you see them, the way you think about them, the way you hold them in your own consciousness. Perhaps you cannot change the fact of a condition of your life, but you do always have the choice of how you're going to think about it. You can choose between fear and faith, between despair and hope, between pessimism and constructive thinking and speaking. And whether you know it or not, you have already made that choice. The choice is always yours. Fundamental to this new insight in truth is a principle that we reiterate so often. Attitudes are the forerunners of conditions. When we choose an attitude, whether we know it or not, we choose the attendant results. It may at first be shocking to contemplate, but permissiveness with the thought children of our mind is far more widespread and infinitely more destructive than any permissiveness with the children of our homes. It is often said, by way of one of the many cliches that are rampant in our lives, "Into every life some rain must fall." It's a negative inference that usually accompanies such words of resignation as, "Well, you can't win them all. What are you going to do?" And we make these statements jokingly, but the implication is there's no choice. Certainly, some rain must fall into every life. The rain, symbolically and in a real sense, is required for the growth and fruitage of nature. Even if the rain is not good for the picnic or for your own outing. You can't regulate the weather, but you have a choice. And this is dealt with whimsically by James Whitcomb Riley in a little couplet that I've always delighted in. He says, "It ain't no use to grumble and complain. It's just as easy to rejoice. When God sorts out the weather and sends rain, why, rain's my choice." You do have that choice. And we always do. From ancient China, there's an adage that has great significance to us, which says, you can't keep the birds from flying over your head, but you can keep them from building nests in your hair. And so if someone gets in your hair, or as we say it in another context, if someone gets under your skin, then you might as well face it. This is because you chose to have it that way. You always have a choice. No matter what a person does, the question that we need to ask ourselves is, why should I let him decide how I'm going to think or feel or act? The choice is mine, must always be. I must not give that choice to someone else. Julian Huxley once said, experience is not what happens to a person, it is what he does with what happens to him. And we can always choose what we do about anything that comes in our life. We always have that choice. We can hate or we can love. We can resist and struggle, or we can deal with it in love and non-resistance. We can worry about it, or we can pray about it and know the truth about it. We can accept it as a crushing blow of defeat, or we can know that even if the other person meant it for evil, God meant it for good, and then we can go on to renewed effort and achievement. But we always have that choice. No one takes it from us. Mark Twain is the one that at least is reputed to have said, everyone talks about the weather, but no one does anything about it. But he was trapped in his own humor, because everyone does something about the weather every day. You did something about the weather this morning, whether you know it or not. If it was a coolish day, you wore a warmish suit. If it's a warmish day, you wear light clothing. If it's raining, you take an umbrella. If it's blowing, as it was this morning, perhaps the ladies put something around their hair. Or in consciousness, you may resist it or be non-resistant toward it, but you always do something about it. And in this way, we do something about everything that happens in our lives, always. We may ignore some insults, we may take offense at others, we laugh at some difficulties, and we surrender to others. We may make a stepping stone out of an obstacle, or we may make a stumbling block out of some others. A great principle in this new insight in truth is the incident is external, the reaction is always our own. The incident is external, the reaction is always our own. We may not be able to do much about the incident, but the reaction is in our domain, in our prerogative. We always have a choice. You may say, but the incident has happened. What are you going to do? The fact is, you're going to do something about it. You probably already have. You react to it in some way. And no matter what that reaction is, it is your choice. It is in your mind. There are no automatic reactions brought about by circumstances. You may say, but he did so and so and he made me mad. He didn't make you mad at all. You decided to get mad about what he did. You had a choice. You may say, but I'm not sure I'm going to have a job 2 weeks from now because they're laying off people. And so I'm worried. But the insecurity of your job doesn't make you worry. You worry because that's the way you decide to deal with the situation about your job. But you always have a choice. If we become disturbed over something that happens, instead of saying, why did that person disturb me? We need to reflect, why should I be disturbed? Even if he was acting in a disturbing way, why should I get upset about his disturbing ways? If he's going to be totally out of kilter with life, why should I let that take me out of kilter with life? Why should I let him decide how I'm going to feel, how I'm going to react? And a great discovery without which we really don't go very far in getting the insight of truth that leads to abundant living is that whenever I am disturbed, it is because I'm disturbable. Whenever I'm upset, it's because I'm upsettable. Whenever I'm irritated, it is because I am irritable. And though it takes a certain degree of humility and self-honesty to admit to this, when we admit to it and realize this relationship, then suddenly we know we always have a choice. We can change that. We can correct the condition. Now, I'm not suggesting that we should destroy or shackle the emotions, that we should become just passive creatures letting anything happen without ever having any response. Because life without emotion has no zest, no elan vital, that delightful Bergsonian word for creative force. But life without control of the emotions is a life that is harassed by destructive fires, what Eliot calls rampaging riots of undisciplined squads of emotion. We're emotional creatures, let's face it, just as surely as we're mental and physical creatures. And the emotions are the conduit through which the creative juices flow for all of us, and through which spiritual ecstasy is experienced. But the thing that we must realize is that I am not my emotions. I control my emotions. Or I can do so, and I should do so. They're mine to control. The control is always in my hands, not in somebody else's. I always have a choice. And the person who becomes emotionally unstable is a person who's never really discovered and accepted the option that the choice is always his. No matter how dark a situation may appear, you always have a choice of turning on the light. And as someone once said, it's much better to bring a light than to curse the darkness. You always have that option of turning on more light. In Psalm 40 it says, I waited patiently for Jehovah, and he brought me out of a pit. The word wait comes from the Hebrew word kavah, which means to bind together. It's not an acquiescence passively in things, sitting, waiting with folding hands. That isn't what wait on the Lord means. It implies the choice to turn on the light. I wait on the Lord in the sense that I make contact. I get a sense of oneness. I turn from the thought and feeling of separation to the realization of oneness and wholeness. So many persons become bowed down under the weight of handicaps and injustices. And I'm sure you know people like this. We would hope that you were not one of them. Dealing with some difficulty or some challenge in life and railing out against the darkness. Why, oh why should this happen to me? One young woman who'd had the tragic misfortune of losing her sight went totally blind. And she went through an understandable feeling of turmoil, of fear and bitterness. And one day she had the most unusual thought. Into her consciousness came an idea that most folks would say is irrelevant. Others would say, how could it ever happen to her in her darkened state? And the thought was, perhaps I can never again see light, but I can think light. And suddenly she discovered that the process of seeing is what the mind does with the stimuli that the eyes record from the outside. And light, in terms of consciousness, is the determination that the person puts on these stimuli. And so she decided that even though the stimuli of light hitting the eyes would not be there anymore, she still could think light in every experience. Interesting thought, some would say a Pollyanna thought, but the important thing was she immediately turned from sadness and despair and defeat into the radiance of joyous optimism, and she's gone on to make a very happy and constructive life out of the whole experience. One man, for instance, who had been crippled from birth, who was hobbled with a painful way of getting around in life, and yet a man who put so many people to shame with his accomplishments and his great spirit and joy and optimism. He was asked by a person once, hasn't your physical handicap colored your thinking? And he replied very quickly, of course it has, but I have always chosen the colors. The choice is always ours. And the interesting thing is, everybody has some kind of deficiency, and we delude ourselves if we think we're alone because we have some problem or handicap. Everybody has a deficiency because life is for living and growing. We wouldn't be here if we were perfect. It's important to know that. That's not being negative. But we always have a choice. We can excuse ourselves because of our handicap. We can say, well, it's because of my age or my lack of education or because of the discrimination against my race or my national background or the economic background or foreground of my life. There's nothing I can do. Or we can turn what seems to be a disadvantage into an advantage. We can turn the minus into a plus by a compensating drive to excel. In other words, no matter what we experience, the important thing is that if it colors our thinking, as it probably does, we can choose the colors. And we always have that choice. I love this little insight of Thoreau's. He says it is something to be able to paint a particular picture or to carve a statue, and so to make a few objects beautiful, but it is far more glorious to carve and paint the very atmosphere and medium through which we look, to affect the quality of the day. That is the highest of arts. And we could add, perhaps that is the greatest of choices. You may be caught up in a spiraling conflict of personalities, and so often the cliche is, well, you know, it takes two to make a quarrel. So it would seem because it takes two, there's nothing you can do about it. But it only takes one person to stop a quarrel. Any person can make the choice to get off the tit-for-tat treadmill at any time. The human of us may desire to get back, to get even for something that's happened. But there's only one way to get even. And you always have that choice. To love, to forgive, to bless. And if you refuse to take this option, then you're a slave to passion and emotion, and you might as well face it. Quite often a person is embroiled in anger and bitterness and acts of defensiveness, and he says, but what can I do? I have no choice. But you always have a choice. In Jesus' teaching comes the thought that you can choose to turn the other cheek. This means to turn from the side of your nature that reacts and is defensive and hostile to that part of your nature which loves and forgives naturally. When you react in anger or hostility, remember, it's your mind. The reaction is yours. It's your emotion. You're not only letting the birds build nests in your hair, but you're providing all the materials. Jesus once gave the idea that if someone compels you to go 1 mile, go with him 2. This was taken from the policy of the Roman legions of forcing people to carry their supplies 1 mile. And this was the way they were such successful armies in logistics. So a person may be required by life, by his job, by the law or whatever, to do certain things. And you may say, I'm required to do it. What are you going to do? I have no choice. You do have a choice. Even the person laboriously carrying the burden of a Roman army for 1 mile. He has the choice. He can carry the load in resistance, or he can carry it in joy. This is going the 2nd mile. It doesn't mean to just say, please let me carry it a little farther. It means to go beyond accepting it as something you have to do and deciding it's something that you like to do. This is the key to freedom. In my book, Discover the Power Within You, I tell the story of a restaurant where all the waitresses were required to smile or they would lose their jobs, and they looked like automatons. All had these forced little smiles that came to their face whenever they came up to your table. But one of the girls stood out because she was naturally radiant. She smiled, but it was real. Someone asked her about it, and she said that at first she resented this demand that she smile. And then she made a discovery. All the smiles beyond the first one were her own. And so she made it a point always to go beyond the initial smile to get the fulfillment of smiling. And that's going the 2nd mile, you see. If you do what you must do and no more, you're a slave. That's true in your work, in your relationships with people, whatever. Quite often people say, well, what are you going to do? I do all I'm supposed to do. You may do all you're supposed to do, but you do not do all you can do. And unless you go beyond what you're supposed to do, you're a slave. The first mile will bring the paycheck or compliance with the law, but the added mile of working with interest, giving with love, leads to fulfillment. No work can bring fulfillment. No relationship of itself can bring fulfillment. But you can bring the attitudes of fulfillment toward the work or the relationship if you choose the kind of attitudes that make for fulfillment. The true compensation in any work begins where duty leaves off, and you always have the choice. So much of the tension that people experience these days comes from money or worry about its insufficiency, and a person may have a fixed supply and fixed obligations, and it would appear there's nothing he can do, and he'll say, I have no choice. What can I do? I'm trapped. But again, there is no choiceless life. You can bless your money. You can receive it and spend it in the consciousness of gratitude and abundance rather than with a sense of lack and worry and resistance toward the system and so forth. Money, to many persons, becomes a symbol of lack. In other words, it's an evidence of how little I have. You can always change that to the idea of the free flow of affluence. You can get the idea that you're always in the flow of substance, and every bit of money, no matter how seemingly inadequate, becomes in consciousness a symbol of that limitless flow. And you have the choice of dealing with life in that way. And you may say, but there's one thing that I can't do anything about, and that's the past. What is gone is gone. The wasted years of my life are beyond recall. And then you may go on and indicate how you feel that your life has been ruined or frustrated by something that you did or did not do, or someone that did something to you, or something that happened back there that has frustrated your experience. But you always have a choice. You can't have the years back to live over again, but as the prophet Joel says, you can restore the years which the locust hath eaten. And the word restore means to make whole, to bring them into context. You can change your attitudes about the past, and thus you can change the influence that the past has upon your today. You can let go of the past. You can stop living in the past. You can stop excusing yourself today because of the past. And you can get into the consciousness of the all things work together for good. There are those who say that there is a predestination of life, and that you can't do anything about it. As the saying is, what will be, will be. Why fight it? When your number is up, you'll go, so why worry? Many say, I have no choice. Few people really believe that, or they would sit with folded hands and do nothing. There is no such thing as predestination, but what appears to be such is actually predisposition, streams of consciousness. And this is what may be sensed by the experienced psychic or seer. In other words, he sees not what will happen, but what is likely to happen if that stream of consciousness continues. And so often people don't take the trouble to realize this. Quite often the so-called psychic or seer doesn't point that out. Consciousness can be changed. Any reputable prophet or psychic or astrologer or palmist will admit that it need not happen. You have a choice. You can alter the flow by changing your consciousness. A doctor's prognosis is very similar to prophecy because both of them are reading trends, streams of consciousness, which can be changed. Doctors may not all accept that option, but this is where metaphysics will take precedence over physics if you insist on it as such, so that when the doctor says this and this and this is what you have and this is what is going to happen, you can say, if you will, thank you very much. I appreciate that because it helps me to know that I have some work to do. But I'm going to put my own imprint upon this, that I have a choice. Choose ye this day whom you will serve. So it's important then to get it into your consciousness that you always have a choice. You can choose your attitude, you can choose your mood, and thus you can choose the effect that life's experiences will have upon you. It may be that we're all too wishy-washy about life. You have a choice. You can rise above the pettiness of people and the negative threat of circumstances. You can sit on top of the world, no matter what the condition of that world. The only things that count in your life, no matter what happens to you or around you, no matter what faces you, no matter what responsibilities you have, the only things that count are the things that happen in you, in your own mind. Think in any way that you want to think. It is an option that can never be taken from you. You always have a choice. And of course, the wisest kind of choice is the choice to love. Because in loving, you keep consciously in the flow of God. Choose ye this day whom you will serve. You make the choice. And that choice will make all the difference in your life.
Well, thank you, Eric Butterworth. That was an excellent message, and I'm going to share that with a teenager or two that I might know. And I apologize. It's actually Dr. Nancy Little that wasn't here today, but I hope everyone enjoyed Eric Butterworth as much as I did. So now we'll have another song. And now we take a moment to go into our heart space and think of the abundance that we all experience every day, whether it's financial abundance, the abundance of friends, loving family, all the great things around us that are constantly increasing. And we certainly at Unity of London thank all of our people for continuing to know that their source is always from spirit, and those that share through the forms of gifts and tithes. Those that who give spontaneous gifts, as you have a call upon your heart, we see you receiving spontaneous spurts of prosperity as the energy returns to you. And we thank those who give regularly in the form of a tithe. We see your understanding of the flow growing abundantly. And if you're new with us here today, we thank you for being with us, giving of your time, and we certainly appreciate you and hope that you come back and consider maybe being a member of our wonderful community. But we thank you all for being here and all the gifts that you do share with us. And now I believe the next is our prayer for protection. Yes. The light of God surrounds me. The love of God enfolds me. The power of God protects me. The presence of God watches over me. And wherever I am, life is, God is, and all is well. Yay, God. And let's have peace around the world. And have a great day. And if you're so inclined, you can hang out with us and have a wee chat. Pauline, first, I'd like to say that was a great choice that you picked for as a replacement speaker. So thank you so much.
Thanks, Sophia.
And we always have a choice. We could have said, oh, no, let's not have a service. We don't have a speaker.
Oh, we never do that. Never
No,
do that.
bad choice. Oh, who'd like to share anything? Oh,
Oh, you're with Lois. I don't know. You're
Betsy.
Nancy.
Betsy.
That's right.
Oh God, I just, I don't even know what to say. That was so moving for me and so where I am right now. And I, I was absolutely awful for wanting to win an argument in the day. And I'm so conscious of that today. And it's been so much better for me because everybody has their own opinion about everything that's going on now and every choice I make. And I always think about things as choices because I didn't make very good choices before. And that was like the best thing I've heard. As many people that have spoke, Pauline, just everybody is so good, but that really, really touched me today. And I'm so grateful that even with all the stuff going on this morning, I got here. And I'm so grateful. Thank you. Good choice, Pauline.
Go ahead, Pauline.
I just wanted to congratulate Lois for an excellent reading
Yes.
of the Daily Word.
Thank you,
It
Pauline.
was everything it was meant to be. It was strong, it was well paced, and it was meaningful. Way to go, Lois.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Pauline. Thanks, Sylvia. And Catherine.
So, Wilda, would you like to share a little bit about your new life in Gorbet with all your boxes that still need unpacking, but you've got a choice to do it or not today?
Hey, I have a choice to do it. So, it's so interesting because all of the people who helped me, including some of you who are on here today, Teresa and Jack and Catherine and Janet and Peggy for just following in my footsteps. So it was quite an effort to get me out of London, I can tell you. But the thing is that one of the things that I always choose in my life is that life is unfolding with ease and grace seamlessly. And so for me, and sometimes that's a little challenging to hold on to that, but I am here, and it was through all of the support that I've got from everybody that I am here. And so, yes, everything is good. I am, some of you know, some of you don't know, but we have a farmhouse on Manitoulin, as well as now the house that I have bought here in Gorbet. And so what's happening is I'm staying out at the farmhouse, but my office is here in Gorbet where I have the internet, because there's sucky internet at the farm. So what I will do, so really right now I can show you with my camera. I'll just switch it around here a little bit and you can see my backyard.
Oh,
Yes, and you can also see there that there's a hole in the ground. So what has happened, for those of you who may not know, is I'm putting about a 750 square foot addition on this house that will be a studio apartment for my sister who has MS. And so as soon as that is done, she will move to Manitoulin to be with me as well. And that will probably, we were hoping for sometime in August. So when I arrived to Manitoulin Tuesday at noon. We left on Monday, and I have been coming into my office. I mean, I do have it set up, regardless of what you may see in the background. I can still do work. So there's a bit more effort to do here. And the great thing is when I showed up, I rested on Wednesday, but I showed up on Thursday. And when I showed up on Thursday, the excavators were here, the contractors were here, the footings and the foundation are going in next week. So there is lots happening. And yesterday, it's amazing like how things you're grateful for, because that I never had to worry about before. Because one of them is cutting grass. I've never had to cut grass in my whole life. And so anyway, there was somebody, well, from the time I was a kid, I did, but not recently. So at any rate, what happened was I was sitting here yesterday and I heard somebody with a lawnmower cutting grass. And I thought, who's cutting grass? So the fellow across the street was cutting grass, nice young fellow, John. So I went over to introduce myself and I said, hey, John, would you like to come and cut my grass? You know, after I introduced myself. And I said, you know, I'd like you to just cut it every time. And so anyway, so he came over and now my grass is all cut in town. Now I have to figure out who's going to cut the grass out at the farm. So, and I said, I sent a little email to Jack and Teresa yesterday that I found a handy person, but he's not nearly as good as Jack, nor will he ever be, I'm sure. But so anyway, I am just blessed to be here. So I came into town this morning for service, and that's what I will continue to do. So thank you for asking. And life up in Manitoulin is pretty great. And I'm looking forward to when Catherine and Larry move up as well. And yeah, it's been so great. I'll just say one more thing, you know, there's the poem Through Unity that we've talked or that we've read over the years about, and it's about people transitioning. And mostly we associate it with people transitioning in death. But what it is it's about the sailboat and the big white sailboat that's leaving the shore, and people are waving goodbye, goodbye, and watching it disappear into the distance. So to me, that's how I feel about leaving Unity, or not Unity, but leaving London, is people have been waving goodbye, goodbye. But on the other side, people are saying, here she comes. And I've been getting so many fabulous messages from, oh, this is going to move me, from my family and friends saying, welcome home.
No.
So that's pretty great. So thank you for asking.
Thank you for sharing. And
You're welcome.
looks lovely. And we all look forward to coming up and visiting at some point.
And I am looking forward to having you as well. Truly, because as I said, there's no place I'd rather be in the summer.
I like the deer in your backyard.
Yeah. Oh yeah. There's lots of deer in Gorbet. And yeah, so yeah, usually, you know, sort of dusk, 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, they start wandering out. I mean, you have to be careful about deer in Gorbet because they could do quite a bit of damage, but yeah, there's all sorts of deer around. Yeah.
Wonderful.
Happy for you, Wilda.
Yeah,
Thank you
way to
so
go.
much. Thank you. Oh, I hear little Max.
Watch the door. Yeah. If I seemed distracted this morning, it was because he's here.
Bring him on. We haven't seen him for a while.
Yeah, let's say hi to Maxie.
Say hi to
Here,
Matt.
Maxie. Here.
I'll give you
No,
that.
he was sitting by the fish pond, and I said to Jack, "Oh my God, he's gonna fall in," and that's what.
Oh,
Hey,
Lord.
Max.
Oh,
There
wow.
you
Look at him.
There's
Look at him.
Max.
Hi, Matt.
Oh, shy. Oh,
Scared him. Scared him off.
Doesn't always agree.
he's getting so big.
He's grown a lot, but he's also letting you know he has a choice. He doesn't like your choice.
Boy, also. You got that right.
He'd rather be watching cartoons.
I'm sharing my smoothie with him, and he loved my smoothie.
Oh.
Oh, that's
I would just
wonderful.
like to share something from that talk this morning, and I've been a follower of Butterworth for a long time, but how honored and enriched are we to have a shining example of exactly what he talked about, a member, and I'm talking about Amber, who lost her vision and turned that into one of the most positive happenings in her life. And I have watched Amber, I've learned from her, I have followed her quietly. And Amber, I just want to say, you just were such a huge inspiration to me for leaning into the light. You know, I just had a conversation with somebody this morning about scripture, because I have a really, let me rephrase this. I have always found scripture to be terrifying. And from the religion that I grew up with. But in unity and my understanding of allowing the light to overcome the dark has been my healing force. And there's still work to do, no question. But you've been such an amazing inspiration to me as a feet on this planet human experience of what he was talking about today. So, you know, you live in the realm of possibility. You live in the realm of I have a choice. And you're such a beautiful example to me, and I'm sure to so many, to everyone that knows you. So I just wanted to honor you for that today, Amber. And the fact that you got your vision back, I don't see that it really improved your life a whole lot. It just changed it again. Yeah.
Thank you, hon.
And,
Thank you.
oh my gosh, thank you. Thank you. Yeah. And I can't wait to get to Manitoulin, and you can do a couple nights at Wilda's, a couple nights at our place, and yeah.
I'm all for that. I'm all for that.
Oh.
By the way, our truck is coming on the 27th. We are now, my surgery was postponed until June, so we have decided to pack up and go. And so we are not leaving, we're just moving. And yes, there's quite a bit of sadness that's coming up for me. And Wilda, you nailed that for me. Thank you. It's just a new home. And we've done it so many times. So I think knowing what to expect, like what he talked about today, and allowing it to be all that God intends it to be are two different things. So we're going there to just slide into our new home, and for everyone to know that they are welcome. We've already got our first reservation for August that we're so excited about from Unity and Nancy and Colleen. And so, yeah, we're ready and open, and yeah, there's emotion, but the imagination that it's creating is just phenomenal. So
Wonderful.
and if you need to buy any furniture or want to rent a really cool ground floor apartment, let me know. Much for the ad.
Wonderful. Thanks, Catherine.
Catherine, just let me know when you're within a few hours of Manitoulin, and I'll make sure you have a welcoming committee.
Hey! Oh wow, that just got my heart going. Thank you. Oh,
You're welcome.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'll be driving the truck.
All right, good girl.
Because I can.
Well, everyone, unless anyone else has anyone else, I don't want to cut anybody off.
I'd like to hear what Amber got from that talk today, if you don't mind, Sylvia.
If Amber would like to share.
If she would like to share, yeah.
Absolutely, I will share. Eric has been a profound influence for me. I have a couple of his books and on audio, and very inspiring gentleman. And yeah, you know, it is just so absolutely true. You have a choice. And I would much rather move in love than move in fear. And we're not given anything that we can't handle. It's just a matter of choice, how we look at it. And give you a little something that I'm currently doing right now, which is very exciting, is my buddy and I, Mike, have bought a tandem bicycle. And I'm currently in training, physical training right now, because next year we're taking it from West Coast to East Coast.
Oh.
Through Manitoulin, I hope.
But yeah, most definitely. Yeah. So we're going to start at West Coast. We're going to have a camper following us. So we have a place to sleep at night. And Mike and I are going to go across Canada on this bicycle so that we can raise money for the visually impaired.
Oh,
for CNIB. So, and yeah, we're very excited, and my butt hurts right now because I'm on this bike a lot, but I'm sure I'll toughen up. I'll toughen up. But anyway, that's what's
Oh, that's
happening, and I'm
wonderful.
excited.
Wow.
And it's about choice. It's all about choice.
It is, for sure.
Yeah.
You make some good ones, for sure.
Thank you. Thanks, Amber. Sorry to put you on the hot seat, but
No, that's fine. No, thank you. Yeah, thank you for acknowledging me. That's warms my heart. It keeps you going, that's for sure.
And am I correct that you are now the treasurer for Unity?
Yes.
Yeah. So miracles can happen, see? Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
enjoying that very much on the board as treasurer. But I also have your lovely husband looking out over my shoulder to make sure that that my job is done to the best of my ability. He's my eyes, and he's the caboose, and he's the engine, I'm the caboose.
Oh, that's beautiful. Beautiful. Awesome.
Wonderful. Well, I'm off to have enjoy some of the
Bye-bye.
sunshine. I think I'm gonna
Yeah,
have off.
yeah.
Have a great day, everybody.
Bye, Sylvia. Great
Everybody
job
have a
today.
wonderful day.
Love you guys.
Congratulations, Wilma.
Love you too.
Thank you. Thank you. Have
Oh,
a great
Wilda,
day,
that is so
folks.
exciting. I love the pictures. Oh,
Thank you. Thank you.
boy, they're moving along fast, aren't they?
They are. That's what we want. Ease
So
and
now
grace.
you're updated on our move. We're officially there, the 27th.
That's great.
Woohoo.
Wow. That's great. Okay, perfect. Okay, Janet, we'll talk to you. Just give me a call. Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Hey, Pauline. Bye, Lorraine. So Pauline, she's gone. Okay. That was awesome. Bye, Paula. Oh, Lois left. Okay. Okay.